Good morning, everyone. I am Shweta Sarangi, and now I will teach you about the abiotic structure. So, in the previous class, we have studied about the biotic structure. So it includes plants, animals, and microorganisms which are present in an ecosystem, and it can be classified as producers, consumers, and decomposers. Again, it is subdivided into two. First one is autotrophic components, and second one is our heterotrophic components. Autotrophic components means which can produce their own food. So these are also called as our producers. Okay. Heterotrophic components, this means they cannot synthesize, so they cannot produce their food and they are dependent on the autotrophs. So these are also called as our consumers. Now I am going to teach you about the abiotic structure. So we have an idea that abiotic means the non-living things, the non-living components which are present in our environment or present in our ecosystem, that's called as our abiotic components or structure. So the physical and chemical, that is non-living components of an ecosystem constitutes its abiotic structure. So it mainly includes two. First one is our material or chemical factors, and second one is our energy or physical factor. And we know that the materials, these are non-living things, and also the energy, so it's also a non-living thing. So these two is known as our these two are known as our abiotic structure, and without this we cannot survive in this world. So we also need these fact materials or chemical things and energy or physical factors. Okay, next is our materials or chemical factors. So the materials like water, minerals, atmospheric gases, and other inorganic salt constitute these material or chemical factor. So some organic matter like amino acids, lipid proteins, etc. These are the organic matter. So the quantity of abiotic components present at any given time in an ecosystem is called as our standing state. So the quantity of abiotic components which are present in our ecosystem in a given time period, that's called our standing state. Understood? Next is our energy or physical factor. What do you mean by that? So the components like light, heat, and stored energy in chemical bonds come under this head. So for proper functioning of an ecosystem, there must be a continuous flow of energy and cycling of minerals among the various components of the ecosystem. So with this is mainly the light, heat, and stored energy. That's also called as our abiotic structure because it's a non-living organisms. Okay, so in abiotic structure we have studied first one is our materials or chemical factor, and second is our energy or physical factor. And we people are the living organisms is also dependent on these factors. So we cannot sustain in this world without these two factors. So we also need that. And in the previous chapter in the natural resources we have studied that how it is important and how much we are depending on that non-living things, the materials, the minerals, the water, and the energy resources. Okay, so we have studied before that. So we need to, if we need to sustain in this environment, if we want to survive in this environment, then we have to make a balance between these two. Okay, so in this chapter you are also going to know about that without the living organisms we can, without the non-living organisms we cannot sustain. So every living organisms is dependent on the non-living things or non-living organisms, and also the non-living things are also dependent on the living organisms. Okay, next, what are the categorical division for biotic structures? Okay, so the various categories of the biotic structure are producers, consumers, and decomposers, and these are the living organisms. Okay, so what do you mean by producers? Who produce the food? and how they produce the food. And we know that only the plants can produce the food. Okay. Next is our consumers. We people are, the animals are, they are the consumers in our ecosystem, because we and animals also cannot synthesize our own food. So we people are, and the animal are fully dependent on the producers. And the next one is our decomposers, who are decomposers. Okay, so the bacteria, the fungi, okay, they are the decomposers. So mainly its biotic structure is of three types. First one is our producer, consumer, and third one is our decomposers. Okay, now I will teach you about the producer. So previously I have told you that the all green plants are producers. They are the living members of our ecosystem. Okay, they utilize sunlight as their energy source and simple inorganic materials from the soil, air, and water, and transform them into more complex energy rich in chemicals are as their food by the process of photosynthesis. Okay, in forest areas, trees are the main producers. Okay, in lakes and ponds, rooted or large floating or microscopic plants are the producers, also known as photoautotrophs. Okay, in the next slide we are going to study about the photoautotrophs and chemotrophs. Okay, so green plants are the producers, and only they can utilize the sunlight as their energy source and synthesize the food, so, and in a process which is called as our photosynthesis. Okay, next is our photoautotrophs. What do you mean by that? So who are called as our photoautotrophs? So in lakes and ponds, rooted or large floating or microscopic plants are the producers, are known as photoautotrophs. These are the small plants, microscopic plants, which are present in our lakes and ponds. These are known as our photoautotrophs. Next one is our chemotrophs. So some ecosystems are also based on chemical energy where there is no light, because we are using light, because the trees are using light from the sun, and that from that source they produce the food by the photosynthesis process. Okay, so next is our the producers. Here are the bacteria that get energy by oxidizing H2A seeping from volcanic vents in the oceans. They are called as chemotrophs. Okay, so without light they create food, and the producers here are the bacteria, which oxidizing H2S, okay, sipping from volcanic vents in the ocean. So these are also called as our chemotrophs. Understood? Next is our consumers, because we know that we cannot synthesize, we only dependent on the producers. Okay, because food is very essential for us, and we are the people who are directly dependent on the producers or the plants. Okay, so these are the living organisms which derive their food directly or indirectly from the producers by ingesting other organisms. The food is then broken down into simpler substances, which are then metabolized and released as waste from the body. So we know that we cannot create food, we cannot synthesize also. So for that we are the consumers. Okay, so there are of two types. They are of two types. One is our macro consumers, and second one is our micro consumers. Okay, next is the macro consumers can be subdivided into three. First one is our primary consumer, second one is our secondary consumers, and third one is our tertiary consumers. Okay, So our macro consumers are again subdivided into three: primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Okay.